Well, not out and about today, so making hopefully something a bit different, but I was planning on going out, but weather forecast is absolutely shocking. Um, you know, they use a kind of deeper colours to illustrate how heavy the rain's going to be. Well, I think they've gone to the extreme end. So the whole of kind of Wales and northwest England are just under this big kind of blue blob. So if you've watched some of my previous films, you know I don't mind going out in the rain and the cold. In fact, I quite like it. But it looked like today would have been one of those days where it just felt like kind of having buckets of water thrown at you. So what I thought I'd do is make a film about getting an image published. So in my video, walking home with my camera, which I published, I think 2 or 3 prior to this, I'll put the link up there. I talked about what I do with my images, and quite a few people asked questions, so I thought I'd do a kind of a story about one image and how I ended up getting published and what the process was. And the image is of Dinas Bran Castle, and it ended up in the Times. So I'll show you the image at the end of the process. But I just thought I'd talk you through the steps. Might be quite interesting, and maybe you could then use that process yourself to get some of your images published in the papers. So first things first, planning. So first P, planning. This image at Dinas Bran, I was thinking of about maybe 2 or 3 years in total before I actually took it. And I spent a lot of time looking at maps. And I also spend quite a lot of time in Google Maps. So you use the maps, obviously. If you can read a map, you can kind of suss out kind of where you want to be, the contours and all that. I also, when I'm looking at maps, I kind of look at kind of other things I might do while I'm at a certain spot. But also I use Google Maps. In fact, I can't remember the last time I took a landscape image where I hadn't used Google Maps beforehand, just to pre-visualize kind of what I'd be seeing. So I'll put a piece in now about Google Maps and kind of how I use it. I'll record a piece.
So here we go. We're in Google Maps, and I'll just do a search for Dinas Bran. There we go. So just hide that, and as you can see, when you're in the map version, there's not much to see. If you go to satellite, you get an overview of the castle. As it happens, I know Llangollen quite well, so again, I've got a rough idea, but this gives you an idea of how I use Google Maps. So go over to 3D view, click Control, and you can quite easily then spin, zoom, all those type of things. And you know, I know that hopefully you know too, that the sun rises in the east and sets in the west. So the sun is going to come up to the left of the image here and shine along this valley. So I knew by looking at these images that if I wanted an image with Dinas Bran and mist in the valley and the sun rising up on the horizon over there, I know I needed to be looking in this direction. There's not much point me being there because the sun would be rising behind me, and I want the sun coming in from an angle. Also, there isn't anywhere to get an elevation from here, so I needed to be up on this escarpment here. So I knew I needed to be there because I'd use Google Maps. And then what you can do is you go Street View and find somewhere to park. So you can use Street View to look and think, oh, is there anybody? You know, I will actually go and use Street View to, you know, if I don't know the area well, just look for parking places. You know, can I park along here somewhere? And then walk up. So that's how I use Google Maps. And I think, as I said, most of my images now, I'll look at Google Maps. If I'm going up a mountain, I look at Google Maps beforehand and spin round and think, what will I see? What's the view going to be looking east? What's the view going to be looking west? It's a brilliant piece of kit for you to be able to supplement what you're doing, preparing for your photos.
So that's how I use Google Maps. And I should say, 9 out of 10 of my images that are published are images that are planned. So kind of that planning is all important. You occasionally, you're in the right place at the right time, and you get an image, and it works and it sells. But more often than not, it's planning. Even so far, to go and kind of looking at the maps, looking at kind of weather forecast, all those type of things have got to come together. So this image for Dinas Bran, for example, I knew what I wanted. I knew I wanted the castle. I knew I wanted a landscape image, but I knew I wanted mist and cloud in the valley at sunrise. So I was, for months and months and months beforehand, preparing. So that's my second P, preparing to take that image. So almost every day I'd look at the weather forecast for that part of Wales, see, because obviously what you need is the temperature to be right, no cloud in the sky for the sunrise. So constantly looking at my app, checking the weather, and waiting for the right time. And then I'm prepared. So I've got all my stuff ready, and I was prepared, and I left quite early. So I had to be there for sunrise. So I left early. So all my stuff was prepared. All my gear was prepared. It's just a case of getting in the car and going early to be in the right spot. And then obviously the third P is the photograph. So you've got to be in the right space, but you've also got to take the best possible image. So, you know, if it's out of focus, if it's grainy, if it's not well composed, it won't get published. So the photograph is all important. All of the stuff I'm talking about is about delivering that one moment when you press the shutter and you take the photograph, and that's the all important thing. The planning and preparation gets you there, and gets you in the right spot at the right time. But pressing the shutter and taking the image and creating a really good image is the most important thing. So then obviously the image is taken, it's in your memory card, and the next P is processing. So go home, go onto your computer and process that image, and process it in a way that looks saleable. So this image of Dinas Bran, it's natural. It's not, I didn't go mad with saturation, I didn't go mad with sharpening or anything like that. Just made it look as natural as possible. So less is more when it comes to processing images for in this instance, newspapers. Because they won't publish something that looks kind of wacky or psychedelic. So the processing is important. Less is more. Keep it focused, pardon the pun, and you know, subtle, so that kind of they can use it. So once you've done the processing, what do you do? How do you get in the newspaper? Well, you could go through the telephone book. Who uses telephone books nowadays? But you could go through the internet and you could find numbers of newspapers and you could phone them up and ask them, do they want to buy it? And that's never going to work. So what I do is I send it off to an agency. So a proportion of my images go to an agency that specialise in news images. The one that I work with quite a lot and have helped me publish images in newspapers before is called Solent News. There are other agencies around, but their job is essentially to get that image in front of newspapers. So you package up your image, you send it off to Solent in this case, and you write the story of the image. So it's not good enough just to send the picture. You've got to write the story of the image as well. So where, when, how, why, all those type of things. Because sometimes the newspaper will use the image with a story. And you can imagine you're a journalist, you're presented with an image. The last thing you want to do is to have to phone me up and talk to me about when did you take it, how did you take it, blah, 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 blah. Write that down so that Solent can then send that out with the image so that it makes the journalist's life easier. As it happens in this case, they didn't use any of that, but you still got to do it. In this case, they just use the image. So send it off to the agency, and then the agency do the hard work. And if it works well, you then get an email saying, yeah, it's been picked up by a newspaper. And as it happened, this one from Dinas Bran, oh look, it just falls open on the right page, ended up in the Times on page 19. And as you can see, they didn't use any of the text that I submitted, other than kind of a little bit of detail about sunrise and where it is. One of the reasons I use it, newspapers love weather-related images. So in that case, I'll pick it up again. I'll show you. In that case, where are we? What was it? Page 19. In that case, they've used the image, But then at the bottom it says, showers are expected across most of Britain today, blah, 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 full forecast, page 52. They'll quite often use a weather-related image. So I keep my eye out for interesting weather. So that's the process. The final P is payment. And one of the reasons I like using Solent is because they're very, very quick at paying. So as soon as they sell the image, they will pay me. Obviously, they take a percentage. It varies across agencies. Some it's 60-40, some it's 50-50. I've had contact with some in the past where it's 70-30 and that they take 70 and you take 30. I'm not going anywhere near that. But 50-50 seems about fair on the basis that 50% of something is better than 100% of nothing. So that's the end process, is getting paid. So that's the story of that image, from the planning and the preparation right through to the payment. It's quite simple. It sounds straightforward. It is quite straightforward. But the key is taking good images and taking images that are newsworthy, that people will be interested in. Now that's for newspapers. It's a different story if you're working with magazines or books or something. And if you're interested, I'll do another video at some stage about how you go about doing that. It's a more complicated, more detailed explanation. But hopefully that gives you an image, an idea of the story of that image, how it went from an idea in my mind to being printed in the newspaper. Hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions, if there's something you don't understand or you just want more information, put in the comments below, and hopefully next time I'll be out in the mountains again. See you soon. Bye.